Welcome to today's deep dive. It's so great to have you here with us.
Absolutely. Really glad you could join us today.
Yeah, so we are focusing on a mission today that I think hits incredibly close to home for anyone who has ever tried to learn something new, and especially for anyone tackling a new language.
Oh, yeah. Language learning is its own beast.
It really is. We are talking about that incredibly frustrating, kind of totally universal phenomenon, the locked voice.
Ah, the locked voice.
You know the exact feeling. You're watching a movie or you're listening to a deep dive just like this one right now, and you understand every single word. The comprehension is totally there.
You feel incredibly smart.
Right, you feel like a genius, but the moment you actually open your mouth to speak, total freeze.
Right.
The words just vanish into thin air.
It's like having all the ingredients for this really complex recipe laid out on the counter, but the moment you turn on the stove, you just completely forget how to cook.
Yes, exactly that. Your brain completely shuts down.
And that brain freeze you're describing is arguably the single most common hurdle for language learners everywhere. You spend countless hours absorbing information, taking in vocabulary and grammar, but outputting that language is an entirely different neurological process.
I have felt that exact freeze so many times, and that is really the core of our source material for today. We're pulling from a really fantastic, highly practical video from the YouTube channel, Mr. English Channel.
It's a great resource.
It really is. The entire focus is on bridging that maddening gap between perfectly understanding a language in your head and actually being able to speak it out loud in the real world.
And what stands out about this particular source is that it goes far beyond just commiserating about the problem.
Right. It doesn't just say, wow, this is hard.
Exactly. It breaks down the underlying cause, which is really the fundamental friction between passive reception and active production. And then it offers concrete, actionable solutions to actually fix that wiring in your brain.
Yes. So the mission for this deep dive is to unpack the 8 powerful strategies from that video, weave them together, and figure out how to actually use them to unlock your voice. Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we even begin when we are completely stuck in this silent trap?
Well, we have to start by taking a hard look at how you are consuming the language on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The core issue, according to the video, is that the vast majority of our listening is entirely passive.
Passive listening, yeah.
Think about what you're doing when you have a foreign language playing in the background. Maybe you're cleaning the house or driving to work or folding laundry.
I mean, I do that constantly. I'll put on a foreign news station or an audiobook. It feels super productive because I'm, quote unquote, surrounded by the language.
Right, you feel immersed.
Exactly. But if I'm being really honest, it's mostly just background noise while I scrub a frying pan.
And you probably understand a good portion of it, which gives you this false sense of security. It feels like a massive victory. But you aren't truly focused on the mechanics of what is being said. The source highlights that to unlock your voice, you have to break that illusion of competence. You must transition from passive listening to active listening.
Active listening, okay.
And the first method they provide to force that transition is a technique called shadowing.
Shadowing. I love the visual analogy they use for this. They say to think of it like a literal shadow cast on the ground. When you're walking down the street, your shadow is doing exactly what you do at the exact same time. There is no delay.
Right, it's immediate.
So with this technique, you become the literal shadow of the native speaker. You listen to a piece of audio and you try to repeat what they are saying at the very same moment they're saying it.
Which is an incredibly intense cognitive exercise.
It sounds borderline impossible, honestly. If you've never tried it, I mean, how are you supposed to speak at the exact same time as someone else when you don't even know what the end of their sentence is going to be?
It is difficult, which is why the source offers a crucial modification for beginners. You don't start by trying to shadow a 5-minute monologue. You start incredibly small.
Okay, like how small?
You listen to one single sentence. You press pause, and then you repeat it. Listen, pause, repeat. But you try to repeat it with the exact same intonation and rhythm.
Okay, let's actually demonstrate this really quickly so you listening can hear how it works. I'll be the audio track and you be my shadow. We'll do the pause method. So I'll say a sentence, pause, and you repeat it exactly how I said it. Ready?
I am ready.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
See, you matched my pacing perfectly. But what is actually happening in the brain when we do this? Why is this better than just reading a textbook out loud?
What's fascinating here is the physical connection it creates. The source refers to this as practicing the music of the language.
The music of the language, I like that.
Every language has its own unique rhythm, stress timing, and melody. When you are just listening passively while folding laundry, your ears are doing all the work. But when you shadow, you are actively training your ears and your mouth to work in tandem.
You're forcing them to cooperate.
Precisely. You are physically making the language happen. It builds the mechanical muscular habit in your jaw and tongue of producing those specific unfamiliar sounds rather than just letting them wash over you.
That physical muscle memory is so key, and it leads beautifully into their next strategy, which takes that active production even further. They call it creating an English mode. Now, I have to admit, when I first read about this, I thought it sounded a little crazy.
It's definitely unconventional.
It involves dedicating a specific time in your day where you only think and speak in that target language. And the way you do it is by narrating your own life out loud to yourself.
It absolutely forces you out of your comfort zone.
Right, but if I'm standing in my kitchen muttering to myself about milk, my family is going to think I've lost my mind.
They might, yes.
But the video gives this exact scenario. You are in your kitchen, totally alone hopefully, and you just start saying out loud, okay, I am making coffee, now I need a cup, where is the milk? You simply describe exactly what you are doing in the present moment. How does talking to myself about coffee cure the brain freeze?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of how memory works, you can see why this is such a transformative habit. When you're listening to a conversation, the words are being handed to you on a silver platter.
Because the other person already thought of them?
Exactly. The native speaker has already done the work of choosing the vocabulary and formatting the grammar. But when you are standing in your kitchen looking for a mug, your brain is suddenly forced to initiate a search function. It has to hunt for the vocabulary entirely from scratch.
Your brain has to do the heavy lifting. You're standing there thinking, what is the word for cup?
Precisely. It's low-stakes practice for high-stakes real-life situations. Every time you force your brain to search for a word and speak it aloud, you are paving a neurological retrieval pathway. You're turning a dirt road into a superhighway.
A superhighway just by making coffee.
The source points out you only need to do this for 5 or 10 minutes a day to see a profound difference. You're ensuring that when you are in a real conversation later, the words are already waiting for you on the tip of your tongue.
Okay, so we're actively shadowing audio and we are narrating our morning coffee routine. But what happens when you are narrating your day and you just don't know the word? You get stuck searching. Well, here's where it gets really interesting. The next major strategy completely flips traditional language learning on its head. The advice is simple but shocking. Stop memorizing single words.
This might be the biggest stumbling block for adult learners everywhere.
We all do it. We buy a beautiful new notebook and we write down cat, dog, book, house, table. We memorize these massive, tedious lists of isolated vocabulary words.
It feels productive, but it's really not.
Exactly. The Mr. English channel says this is actually terrible for your speaking ability. Instead, we need to learn chunks. And yes, I'll be honest, when I saw the word chunks, my brain immediately went to chunks of chocolate cake.
Just like the host in the source video did.
It's the only logical place for the brain to go.
A completely natural reaction.
Yeah.
But in the realm of linguistics, chunks are the secret weapon of native speakers. The video explains that chunks are groups of words that naturally go together. Phrases, idioms, or sentence starters.
Okay, so give me an example.
Instead of learning the isolated word point and trying to figure out how to use it, you learn the entire prepackaged phrase. That's a good point.
Oh, I see.
Instead of just the word mean, you learn the whole chunk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or filler phrases like, let me see, or that's interesting.
They describe these chunks as ready-to-use tools. They are literal shortcuts for fluency. But why does a chunk prevent the brain freeze better than knowing the single word?
Because it completely bypasses the need to constantly think about grammar rules. This is where we get into the concept of cognitive overload.
Cognitive overload.
Right when you build a sentence, word by word from a memorized list, your brain is simultaneously trying to remember the vocabulary, conjugate the verbs, correctly apply the syntax rules, and figure out the right prepositions. It's too much processing power for the brain to handle in real time. That's why you freeze.
It's like trying to build a car from scratch while you're currently driving on the highway.
That's a great way to put it. Think of it like buying pre-chopped vegetables instead of trying to chop them yourself while the pan is already burning on the stove.
Pre-chopped vegetables, I love that.
A chunk is a pre-assembled unit of language. Your brain treats, you know what I mean, as one single item of memory, not 5 separate words. You just drop it into the conversation effortlessly. It buys your brain crucial seconds to think of your next idea while making you sound incredibly natural and fluid.
Pre-assembled language. That takes an enormous amount of pressure off the speaker. But of course, you listening right now might be thinking, okay, chunks are great, shadowing is great, narrating is great, but I am so busy. I work full time. I'm exhausted. I don't have time to add a whole language curriculum to my daily routine.
It's a very valid concern.
The source addresses this directly with a vital mindset shift: consistency over volume.
The common assumption is that you need hours of unbroken free time to make any real progress. People wait until the weekend to study.
But the video is adamant about this. Doing something for 5 or 10 minutes every single day is vastly superior to cramming for 2 straight hours on a Saturday afternoon. You have to touch the language daily. Why is that daily touch point so much more powerful than a weekend binge?
It makes perfect sense when you remember that speaking a language is not just an academic exercise of memorizing facts. It is a physical motor skill. The source makes a brilliant comparison here. They compare speaking a new language to playing the piano or playing a sport like football.
Okay, you wouldn't just practice piano once a week.
You would never expect to be good at the piano if you only touched the keys once a week for 2 hours. Your fingers would be stiff and you would forget the sheet music.
You'd be starting over every single Saturday.
Exactly. Daily practice, even if it's brief, keeps what the video refers to as the English muscle in your brain active, warm, and ready to fire. It signals to your brain that this information is vital for daily survival, so it moves it into long-term, easily accessible memory.
So we've got a daily 5 minutes. We're using our pre-chopped vegetable chunks. We're ready to practice our physical skills. But then we hit the obvious roadblock, especially for shy listeners or anyone who doesn't live in a country where their target language is spoken. Who do I actually talk to?
That is the big question.
If my goal is to speak or spookle, I need a speaking partner, right? This is where the source gets incredibly creative about building a safe space to improvise. The next strategy is talk to your phone.
A brilliant, entirely free use of the technology we already carry around in our pockets all day.
Specifically using the voice recorder or voice memo app. The process is simple. You ask yourself a very basic question like, what did I do today? And then you hit record and answer out loud. Today I woke up, I was tired, the traffic was terrible, I ate a sandwich.
Simple, everyday actions.
Right, and this is the part that makes everyone want to run away. You listen back to the recording. I don't know about you, but I cringe just hearing my normal voice on a voicemail. Isn't this going to make a self-conscious learner even more anxious?
It is incredibly intimidating to hear your own voice, especially speaking an unfamiliar language. But the value of this exercise far outweighs the temporary discomfort. You essentially become your own teacher in a zero-pressure environment.
Because nobody else is listening.
Nobody else is watching. There's no judgment. You can
Yeah.
listen back and serve as an objective observer. You might realize, oh, I actually pronounced that sentence really well. Or you might identify a specific word that felt clunky and decide to practice just that one sound.
And the video gives this deeply reassuring piece of advice for anyone dreading the sound of their own recordings. They say, your accent is not bad, your accent is just you. I think that is so validating.
It frames the accent as a unique part of your identity, a marker of your personal history, rather than a flaw that needs to be aggressively erased. It removes that heavy layer of self-judgment so you can stop agonizing over sounding like a native and just focus on the actual mechanics of being understood.
Now, building right on this idea of solo practice, the next strategy is one that might feel a little goofy at first. It's role-playing. You literally talk to the wall, or you talk to your dog or your cat. You pretend you are in a real-world scenario like arriving at passport control at the airport, or sitting in a high-stakes job interview, or dining at a restaurant.
The ability to simulate those environments in the safety of your own home is crucial for overcoming the brain freeze.
The video gives the example of ordering a pizza and a water at a pretend restaurant. You have to play both the waiter and the customer. Welcome. What would you like to order today?
I would like a large pizza, please, and a glass of water. How does pretending to order invisible pizza from a golden retriever help me in the real world?
Because it trains the brain for unpredictability. The primary reason we freeze in real situations isn't always a lack of vocabulary. It's the shock of the context.
The shock of the context. That makes a lot of sense.
Real life is unpredictable. Role-playing helps prepare your neural pathways for those unexpected scenarios. When you simulate a restaurant environment repeatedly, you build a mental script. So when you are finally sitting in a real cafe in London or New York, the novelty of the situation doesn't shock your nervous system into freezing. You've been there before, even if it was just in your living room. Which brings us to the natural next step. We're comfortable talking to our phones, we're comfortable ordering imaginary pizza, but eventually we have to prepare for the unpredictability of another human being. The source presents a strategy that bridges this gap perfectly, practicing responding. Because as the video points out, listening is wonderful, but a true conversation is a two-way street.
It has to go back and forth.
Right, it goes listen, speak, listen, speak. And that fast back and forth rhythm is where people really stumble.
It requires an entirely different speed of cognitive processing. If you only practice talking to yourself or your dog, you are completely controlling the pace. You can pause for 10 seconds to remember a word, but in a live conversation, you have to react.
You have to train your answer speed. And the source offers some great modern tools to shift from passive listening to active replying. You can use an AI chatbot on your phone with a voice feature where you ask it questions, and it asks you unpredictable questions back, forcing you to reply in real time. Or you can find a language exchange partner online or work with a teacher. The goal is the volley.
This raises the ultimate question, though. We can role play. We can chat with AI. We can build all the muscle memory in the world. But eventually we have to step out the door and talk to real human beings. And that brings up the deepest psychological barrier that stops almost everyone in their tracks.
Oh, yes. The source calls this the biggest, scariest monster in the room. And what is this monster? The fear of making mistakes. It's the absolute terror that your grammar is going to be completely wrong, that you'll use the wrong verb tense, and that people are going to judge you or laugh at you.
It is a profoundly paralyzing fear, and we have to acknowledge where it comes from. Most of us learned our first foreign languages in a traditional classroom setting where the ultimate goal was to pass a written test, not to casually order a coffee.
You were graded on perfection.
We are carrying a decade of test anxiety into a simple chat with a barista. Unlearning that takes significant time.
The way the expert in the source video handles this trauma is brilliant. They completely flip the script on how we are conditioned to view errors. They say that mistakes are not bad things. They are not. And I love this visual red pens on a test. They say your mistakes are actually your friends.
That is a massive paradigm shift. We are taught that grammar rules are rigid laws, and breaking them means failure. A mistake is the deduction of points. But in the organic context of speaking a language, a mistake is literal proof that you are trying.
The source states it so clearly. A mistake is proof that you are brave. Every single time you stumble over a conjugation or use the wrong preposition, it just means you had the courage to open your mouth, step into the unknown, and try.
And the video makes a very bold but biologically accurate claim here. Fluency comes after mistakes, not before.
Fluency comes after mistakes.
You cannot bypass the mistake phase. It is a biological impossibility to learn to speak a language flawlessly without making thousands upon thousands of awkward, messy errors first. The mistakes are not roadblocks. They are the actual stepping stones to the fluency.
Which brings us to the ultimate golden rule shared in the source material. Honestly, this is something I think every single learner should write on a sticky note and put on their bathroom mirror. Communication, not perfection. Did the other person understand your idea? If yes, you win. That's it. That is the entire game.
It completely dismantles the anxiety. The barista doesn't care if you use the present perfect continuous tense flawlessly. They just want to know if you want oat milk or regular milk. Did you get your point across? Yes. Then it was a highly successful interaction. The perfectionism is entirely in your own head.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If we pull back and look at the entire journey through these strategies from the Mr. English channel, the overarching theme is incredibly clear. Unlocking your voice isn't about studying textbooks harder or memorizing longer lists of isolated words. It is about actively moving the language from your ears to your mouth through small, messy daily habits. It's about becoming an active participant instead of a passive observer.
It is a complete shift in methodology. You move from treating the language as a fragile object to be academically studied to treating it as a rugged tool to be used.
So we have a challenge for you today. Take just one of these concepts and apply it right now. Maybe you rewind this deep dive for 30 seconds and try shadowing a sentence we just said. Or maybe when you go to make your next cup of coffee, you narrate the entire process out loud to your empty kitchen. Be brave. Make a glaring grammatical mistake and let your brain do the heavy lifting.
And as you embark on that daily practice, I'd like to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on the philosophy we just unpacked. If we truly accept that mistakes in language learning are actually just tangible proof of your bravery, and that your unique, imperfect accent is really just a beautiful reflection of your personal history, how might embracing those imperfections change things for you? How might letting go of the desperate need for perfection in language learning actually make you more confident, more authentic, and more courageous in other areas of your life where you've been holding back your voice?
That is an incredibly powerful question to reflect on. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you found these insights as liberating and motivating as we did. Keep exploring, keep making those beautifully brave mistakes, and most importantly, keep learning. See you next time.